Here we are at the Cub Room, having lunch with John Minnelli from the New York Post.
I got a few things I gotta remember that I asked at some point. What you guys been doing? That's the question. Trying to keep busy.
Yeah,
pretty much
like
it.
how?
Yeah. Anything that fills the time. I think at first, when we first got the boot, talking almost 2 years ago now, the idea was somehow we're getting right back into the scene. Somehow, with the agent, something might break. The denial phase of the whole thing. And we assumed we would be going back to work somehow, some way, a little sooner than we did. But after the realization sunk in that we weren't, travel was a thing where you're like, okay, now I could take some time and go to all those places I wanted to go to. And then I realized myself, I really don't have that many places I want to go to.
That's what you would usually say on the air.
Yeah.
Why? Thank you.
Yeah.
See it on TV or something.
You just kind of, when you get to where you're going, I mean, I've had a lot of fun. I went down to Atlantis and the Bahamas.
We've got interrupted from a fresh pepper mill. Do you need pepper on your salad, Anthony?
Thank you.
All right. But look at me, I'm the pepper guy. I became the pepper guy. I used to be a very famous radio DJ. Now I'm the pepper guy.
When you get to the places, it's still on your mind. You're like, oh, I'm not working. Now I'm just maybe 1,000, 1,500 miles away from home, thinking, oh, this blows. I'm not working. So you find other things as time went on. As ridiculous as it is, you get little hobbies. You just fill the time because your life is on hold. You can't do what you want to do, which is a radio show, and you can't really start pursuing some other career because eventually you're going to get back into it. So your life is on hold. You're in limbo for 2 years, pretty much.
It has been 2 years.
Yeah, it's just about next month. Yeah, August will be 2 years. So you sit there and try to figure out little dopey ass things to do with your time to go, well, check it off. There's another day gone. It's almost like, I don't want to make it sound dramatic because it's not like we're living in squalor or anything, but it's the same mindset, I would guess, as a prisoner, where you just X the days off because you're only living to the point where you can then get back to doing what you do. So anything to fill the day and make that go on, get to tomorrow, is what you do.
Like Martha Stewart, you have money, but you're in prison.
Yeah, you kind of can't do anything. We can't go out and go, all right, screw them, let's go do a radio show. It wasn't possible.
Well, because we're under contract until June 1st.
Yeah.
And finally our contract ended. It's funny, a lot of people said, man, you guys got the ideal situation. You get paid to do absolutely nothing. You get paid really well to do absolutely nothing. And that was cool for like 3 or 4 months. And like Anthony said, traveling. I went to the Grand Canyon. I've seen almost every state in America.
By driving?
Lots of driving. The best drive I did in the last year and a half was from LA to San Francisco along the coast. It's the most amazing drive you'll ever do in your life. And then I did the drive from LA to Vegas, and I did the Grand Canyon. I went down to Miami, and I did pretty much every state in America. I went to Montreal twice, Toronto. I mean, you name it, I was there.
Have your Auto Club sticker on your bumper.
And no, it was great. I had satellite radio to keep me company, which was kind of cool. But anyway, after 3 or 4 months, you realize that it's not all it's cracked up to be to get paid to do nothing. You realize there's no one to hang out with at our age. Not that we're old, but I wish this happened to me when I was in my early to mid 20s. I would have had the time of my life, partying with my friends, going to the beach, things like that. But you realize there's just no one to hang out with after a while.
If we had jobs, and I can understand if you have a crap job that you don't enjoy, and someone said, look, I'll pay you the same amount of money, just don't come into work, you'd be whoop-de-doing, every day. But we knew that we could get paid doing what we do. It wasn't like Infinity Broadcasting was the only person that could have paid us to do our show. We would rather have done what we love doing and get paid to do it that way than sit out. They're sitting us out from something we enjoy doing. So when people said, "Oh, it must be great to not work and get paid," no, it was better to work and get paid. It was on a daily basis. We'd go in and have a great time.
Yeah, Anthony makes a good point. I want to add to that. It was never about the money because we realized that we could have made the money up doing another show for somebody else. We had offers. I remember being in my apartment with Anthony when all hell broke loose with Sex for Sam, and the phone was ringing that day from satellite radio. The day we got fired, they wanted to hire us. And it's been a long haul ever since. We obviously couldn't get out of our contract. We tried to get out of our contract. Matter of fact, we tried to get out of our contract for what? For the last year?
Yeah, about the past year we were trying to get out of the deal. We didn't want to get paid anymore. We said, keep your money, just let us work.
Let us work. And that wasn't good enough. It was amazing that we were told, no. They forced us basically to take their money, which I know sounds crazy, but it's the God's honest truth.
Take this money and sit.
Right.
You know, no, we're like, no, we want to work. And they're like, they came up with a bunch of options because it can't be simple. It can't just be, hey, Infinity, keep your money and we'll go to work. It was, okay, guys, we won't pay you. You could go to work. But here's a laundry list of other things that you now have to do or not do in order for us to not pay you and let you work. These were not talking about personalities, not talking about employees, not talking about situations.
It was called the Howard Stern clause. Let's get right to the point.
That was pretty much.
There was a stipulation. They would let us work. They would stop paying us. But if we mentioned Howard Stern or anyone that works for Viacom or used to work for Viacom, they were going to fine us $100,000. Right? Each. Really.
Don't talk about Sex for Sam. Don't talk about the FCC. I mean, don't talk about anything.
And one draft of this so-called agreement that obviously we were never going to sign, they pretty much said, I think, and help me out if I'm correct, they said for the rest of our lives, we can't talk about anyone. So here in my mind's thinking, we'll be in an old age home one day and we decided to tell everyone how much of a hypocrite Howard was.
There'll be
there's a lawyer there.
Spy sitting under the bed,
finding us $100,000 as we're peeing into a bedpan.
Hope I got distracted when you said that. Who offered you a gig from day one?
Well, back then it was Sirius. Sirius Satellite Radio came to the table.
That early, 2 years ago?
They came to the table the day we got fired.
The phone rang. They were on the phone with our agent, Bob Eaton. And, they were interested. You know, obviously we were in the news. And they were interested. So that's when we started talking with people. But, again, our hands were tied because of the contract we were under with Infinity. We really couldn't pursue anything seriously.
And as I understand it, you were free to work elsewhere in June, but you can't work in New York again until October, right?
Right. We could be doing a show right now for the entire country except for New York. And, being New York guys, and we loved being syndicated and all, but, we couldn't do a show without New York hearing it from day one. So,
and that's broadcast radio. Now, as far as satellite goes, because they can't restrict a signal from one market, it covers the entire U.S. We can't start satellite either until October 1st because it would include New York.
So do you have any announcements to make in that regard today?
Announcements? No. We can say that we have been seriously talking with people in satellite, broadcast.
Both companies, XM and Sirius?
Yeah, been talking with both companies. Broadcast radio also, as you know, Fareed, who was over there at Infinity for a while, is now with Citadel Broadcasting, and we've had talks with him. Informal little chats with some people and serious negotiations with others. We've also looked into other mediums. We've talked to do something.
Yeah, I've just been testing and stuff. So
anything you want to get out.
Nice break in the conversation.
I'll go where I should go.
Yeah, I just need free to leave just because of this. And I can
you can stop the tape. Leave it on if you want. Leave it going. Screw it. Tell the people what's happening.
All right. Well, we're now doing a photo shoot.
And salad. Opie, Anthony, and salad.
Yeah, can I move my salad?
just the sound. I don't care about that. But just that. It looks a little.
There you go. You want to stop my salad? My private table.
Go eat your salad.
Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
How was that go? Never know.
Never know, man. That'll be the one.
Thanks.
Maybe if we both went out with machine guns and mowed everybody down right after this, but...
All right, where were we? The photo shoot is done.
Oh, I actually
prospects.
know where I left off. Yes. We were pursuing other mediums, like talking with people about books and getting pretty far into it. A book deal, also television, based on what we did on the radio. So we've been keeping busy with meetings, a few of which have been real clowns, and we've had some good laughs with sitting and meeting with people that are like, oh, what, you know, when you sit down, oh, here's a waste of time. But we're looking at a lot of things.
Can you reveal any of the cable channels that talk to you, or any of the producers that we might know other shows they've done? Or
I think it's one of them is obvious. We've sat down in the past with Comedy Central, so that's one. But other things we were looking at were FX and Spike.
Well, Dennis Leary's people have been really interested in us. One of his production companies, Apostle. They seem to get the radio show and really want to see how they can turn it into a TV show. Obviously, you know, if we did some type of TV show, we'd like to have it not look like Howard's show, obviously. That's very important to us, and the gang at Apostle seemed to get that, and we threw around a lot of cool ideas. So,
yeah, the show's always had a lot of personality. We brought in a lot of people that have very strange personalities and fun, and things that would translate well to television. You know, so we're definitely looking into that. But that all hinges on getting on the air, getting on the radio, and having a radio show to make a TV show out of. So that's our primary goal, is to get back on the air.
so you would want to do radio first, and then
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're not
TV.
stupid. We know our strength is radio, and you know, if someone can turn that into a good TV show and something we're comfortable with, then great. We don't want to be on TV just to be on TV. We tried that route with the XFL, and it was awful. Absolutely awful. I'm excited about writing a book, to be honest with you. I think Anthony and I have had a pretty unique career thus far, and you know, we have a lot of stories to tell and a lot of things that happened to us, and I think it would make for a really good read.
A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that people never realized was going on when when news would break on some stunt that we would pull off. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that makes interesting reading, as far as how it dealt with upper management, the FCC, and just between ourselves and between the crew of the show, things that were going on. So it would definitely make an interesting read. We've written some parts already, and
I was just gonna. You did a two-part thing, and Opie, you did a whole kind of a journal.
Oh, we've been
And is that still on your website?
yeah, all that stuff can be found
Yeah.
on the websites. The websites and the fans have just kept our names alive in the last 2 years. It's pretty amazing. We have, I think we have a bigger fan base now than we did when we were on the air, because
it's spread out to beyond what markets we were even on.
Yeah, we
hear from people all over the world. It sounds ridiculous, but you know, people have been downloading our shows, full shows, and listen to them like it's happening that day. And they email us like we did it that day, and they're fans of the show. And you know, these guys are in Ireland, and you know, across parts of the United States that we were never on. And yet they talk to us like, oh my God, that was hysterical when Brewer came in and he was doing the bit about the dog, and I'm going, oh my God,
Choking
remember
dog.
that?
I remember that. That was hilarious.
but that's like 2 years ago. You get this email like they listened, you know, yesterday, and you're like, man, we did that show 2 years ago, and it's from people from, you know, all over the country that never heard the show originally. So, I mean, it just continues to grow.
Makes you feel good. It definitely does, because a lot of shows in New York have come and gone. I mean, they've been on the air and they've been taken off the air. And after a while, you don't even remember the name anymore. You know, they just go away. The difference with us is, The difference with us is we were yanked from the air at the top of our game. You know, we had really good ratings, and we were doing a good show, and people enjoyed it. And it was very popular. And when you take something like that away from the people that are enjoying it and listening to it, it's not like you were taken off because your ratings sucked and no one was listening. You don't just go away. People are waiting for us to come back. They have been waiting, and they're still there. We have a huge audience that is still waiting for us to come back. So it makes you feel good. It's nice to see the WOW stickers on the vehicles out there still, drive around. And we're eager to get back and start doing the show again.
So now, just so I'll have to remind the public that Citadel does not have any stations in New York.
Right.
But for the benefit of anybody around the country, do you think there's a chance of Citadel happening?
Well,
especially given the climate with the FCC,
it would be really tough to do broadcast radio and not be heard in New York. So, I mean, if we could possibly make a deal with Citadel and maybe another company that has, properties in New York, then that would definitely be a possibility. But I can honestly say for both of us that, I don't know, it would be tough just to join Citadel exclusively without being heard in New York City.
Have you or your agent had any talks with, because, virtually all of the New York FMs are owned by huge companies.
Right.
Or companies that just wouldn't do your kind of show. And but there are a lot of AM stations. And, it's been proven that, obviously people prefer FM, but people will listen to AM if they really want to, right? I.e. news or baseball or what have you. Have you or your agent been in talks with any of the New York AM stations about coming back as a morning show, say, or an afternoon show? But I would think
like I've said, we've looked into every option that's out there. We've been talking with a lot of people. And it pretty much covers everything. And if that answers your question.
I think Anthony's beating around the bush here.
The climate in radio right now is the worst it's ever been.
Oh, I know.
It would be impossible for us to go exclusively on broadcast radio and do the same show we were doing. Impossible. We couldn't use the code words that we were used to use. The balloon knots and, it's been so long.
Some stations don't even allow effing anymore. Forget the real word. They're not even allowing effing.
The letters.
I think Anthony and I could still do a very creative, funny, entertaining show for broadcast radio.
It wouldn't be the same show we were doing.
But at what price? We know if we went back on commercial radio. See, I'm going to play my hand a little bit for you, John. Unlike Anthony, who beat around the bush.
Yeah.
I think there would be such a bullseye on our forehead because of all the indecency crap that's going on. It's no secret we're like the poster kids or guys for indecency, indecent radio, and I just think it would make it really, really tough to get a show done because of the hysteria that has taken over broadcast radio.
Yeah, it's bad enough to be a show out there that's trying to do any kind of edgy radio that doesn't have a name because they're under the gun too. But we'd be crucified the second we opened the mics. They would be waiting for us to say something that would they'd be able to complain. And by they, I mean the people that are out there patrolling the airwaves for the good of the country. Thank God they're out there saving the children from the likes of Opie and Anthony.
But in my view, you guys know I'm a fan and was a big listener. A lot of what you did that I thought was the best of what you did was just riffing off the news.
And talking about like growing up, things like that didn't involve any of the shocking content that a lot of people believe was all our show was about.
Yeah, I mean, with your families or your lives or what happened on the way to work, what's happened around the station, or what's happening in the news, what was on TV.
The listeners know that. They're the ones that understand, but that's preaching to the converted. They know that's what the show is about. Other people that never heard the show just read the newspapers accounts and hear the TV news accounts of the huge stunts that got us in trouble, got our names in the news, and that's all they think the show is about, because that's all they know. They don't listen on a daily basis. They don't hear us talking about growing up on Long Island, the family stuff and things that don't involve sex or some kind of shock value. But that's all they know, because that's all they've read. Those are the instances where we get a little pissed that people kind of put us in that category of just shock jock.
Right.
Was there a shocking element to our show? Sure. It was an attention getter. But it certainly wasn't what the show was all about.
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy when we first came to New York was to maybe shock some people to get them to listen to our show, because
no one was listening to the station.
There's no secret. Nobody was listening to WNEW when Anthony and I came to New York. They weren't even...
Hey, and look, we're right back to the same situation.
Yeah, the station wasn't even on anyone's presets, which is a scary thing if you know anything about radio. So, our philosophy was, okay, we'll do some stuff that's going to get our name in the papers and maybe our faces on TV, and then people will check out our radio show and then see what we're really about, which
then
is
you got to back it up with something that's going to keep people there on a daily basis.
Which was just a funny, clever, entertaining show.
Bunch of guys hanging out, having fun. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get as big as Anthony and I did, just doing shocking things, day after day after day after day. Matter of fact, it's kind of unfortunate that we got thrown off the air for the Sex for Sam thing, because our show was starting to, evolve. If you take the Opie and Anthony show when it first came to New York and the Opie and Anthony show when we got fired, it was drastically different. We were starting to get away from a lot of that shocking type of radio, because we even understood that we didn't really need to do that anymore.
And it was a matter of self-preservation, because, the writing was on the walls even at that point. It had already gotten to the point where management was saying, look, we got to watch this. You got to watch the violation, the FCC. FCC, it was already coming down. We were getting dumped more than we ever had on the air, so we had to start tweaking the show.
As I see it, the plus for you guys when you come back is that even though there will be all of these sharks swimming around looking to bite you, you can do, with all these restrictions that now exist, mind you can live within them and still do a very, very funny show that will get big ratings.
Right.
And you've already done the shocking thing, so that's taken care of. That's
right.
Like, they know who you are.
I mean, we'd be lying to you if we said that, that the shock thing wouldn't be a part of our show. I mean, there'll always be that element of us living on the edge and being a little bit shocking. But
yeah, we're not going to all of a sudden turn into Hannity's show.
But to go as far as we did, I don't know. Like you just said, I think we did it, and we did it better than anyone. That's why Anthony and I really like the possibility of going to satellite radio. We think our audience will be a lot less than it would be for commercial radio, but I think we'd have a lot more fun doing, our show, and doing the show we pretty much were doing at the end of our run at WNEW,
without having to worry about being dragged in the office after the show and saying, "What the hell were you doing?" It's the lack of FCC restrictions on satellite radio doesn't mean we go on and use the F word every day and curse. It's not what the show was about anyway. It's not what made the show popular. But it would be nice to be able to talk about things, certain subjects, and not worry about getting an FCC violation, thrown off the air because you said something that offended somebody.
Yeah, it's funny because we read message boards and we read what the critics say, and people say, well, if Opie and Anthony go to satellite radio, they're just not going to be as funny because the fun of listening to them was how they skirted the issues and didn't curse and things like that. If they're able to say fuck on the radio, then it's not as fun. But Anthony and I know what got us here. Why would we change our show and just start doing the fuck you show, you know?
Some have speculated that if you did show up on satellite radio, that congressmen or maybe even the broadcasters, the NAB, might go over to Congress and say, hey, maybe you ought to regulate that too.
We've heard that one. I think they'd have a really tough time, a lot tougher than getting than ripping apart broadcast radio like they have been. I think the idea that it's subscription based makes it like cable TV. I think they'd have a lot tougher a time. I think would be tied up in courts for a while. I think it's easier to defend the material that's going out over satellite radio easier than it is over the public airwaves that they love to just keep sanitized clean for the children. I want to smack someone in the head when I hear that. And I think that'd be a great thing, to tell you the truth, if they tried. I think it'd be nice to be part of a medium that is under fire like that and to have a little bit more of an edge than people have in broadcast radio where they're afraid to defend themselves against federal regulations. I think it'd be fun to be part of that. Bring them on.
Yeah, definitely bring them on. You know, do you remember about how many listeners you had on your network at the very end, roughly?
You know what? We were number one in a lot of cities, but we never really paid attention to that. It was more about just doing a fun, good show. I honestly couldn't tell you how many listeners we had.
I would think, based on, because I know what cities you were in and doing well in, and based on your cum in New York, I would have to think that it was at least 5 million. Does that sound roughly ballpark?
If I had to guess, sure.
And my only point of bringing that up is Sirius right now has only 500,000.
Right.
And XM, the bigger one, only has, what, now 2 million? About 2 million?
2.1.
Yeah. And
we've done our research. We know the ins and outs of these two companies, I'll tell you right now.
So your fans, you know, were double the number that's on both satellite services right now.
Right. Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, though. That's something that Anthony and I, you know, have to weigh. It's like, okay, we go on commercial radio and maybe talk to the same audience we were talking to, but we're not having a good time. You know, we're feeling the stress and pressure of management, you know, breathing down our backs, and, you know, I personally want the freedom, and we want to have fun. And if that means talking to less listeners, then so be it. You know.
Not only that, we're not going to be able to step into broadcast radio in 20 markets and get the amount of listeners that we had anyway. There's no way we could get picked up on enough stations. There's not enough brave people out there that are willing to take some heat when we first sign on, that we would get those that amount of listeners anyway.
By the way, my point in comparing the numbers was totally the opposite of how you took it.
Oh, okay.
My point was to say, with your fan base, you could double the current universe overnight by being on it.
Right.
It wasn't to say, you know, you shouldn't do it because it's a small. I'm saying that you could, and you know your listeners obviously very well. Do you have a rough idea how many of them would pay?
Well, the numbers that have been thrown around to us, they think a minimum of 200 to 250,000 people would subscribe to, you know, a satellite service because we, you know, we're signed right away, right, and then
that's very conservative.
Yeah, very conservative.
And possibly grow from there. But you know what? Either one of these companies gets 200 to 250,000 new subscribers because of us. You know, there's a lot of happy people. So,
I think we can make a huge impact on either company. And not only immediately with subscriptions, but with publicity, with getting the word out, not even with just our fans signing on. We know how to generate news. Me and Opie always have. We know how to self-promote, and this would be a huge asset for either company, because it's not just, hey, look, we signed O&A, and there's your little news release, and there, do your show. Over our time at NEW, we were constantly doing stuff and self-promoting and getting some press. And now that press will say either, XM's Opie and Anthony or Sirius's Opie and Anthony. And that's got a value to either company to be in the news that much.
And I think if you need a little help with publicity, the Catholic League would oblige you.
Oh, God.
Certain conservative watchdog groups would probably help you.
That guy, man, unfortunately, little tiny voices can make a lot of noise these days, and it is so dangerous. It is so dangerous to put out the illusion that these people are the voice of the majority, and these people are what the public wants, because it's just not true. They're the squeaky wheel. They're the ones that have, for some reason, the time and energy and letterhead and word processors to make a big noise, to make the illusion to people that this is what people want. They're the ones that can intimidate companies with threats of boycotts that would never happen, threats of this public outrage that'll never happen. But these companies take these threats and they back down. They should be saying, hey, if you don't like it, don't listen. I'm sorry, there seems to be a lot more people that enjoy this type of entertainment than you say. If you take their word for it, there's, 5 perverts sitting in a basement listening to all these programs. But for some reason, these are the highest rated programs.
Am I right in assuming that if you did a satellite deal, you would still retain the right to be on local radio stations as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, our goal in this whole thing would be to go on to, if we choose satellite, to go on the satellite station for a certain exclusive period, and then perhaps after a little while, radio. And still, satellite would have that edge because they would get some material that wouldn't be broadcast live. Picture an O&A Roadshow broadcast live on satellite, uncensored. I mean, that would be, I would like to listen to that.
Yeah, it'd be good, and you would promote it, an uncensored interview or whatever got bleeped on the radio, you would have.
They would get the audio that isn't dumped, so, you're hearing everything that's going on.
Plus, there's a lot of areas where, you would never be with radio that's satellite would cover.
We'd have
people on the road.
We'd have instant syndication. We always wanted to be on in LA.
It's like when they take shows like Sex and the City or The Sopranos and put them on Fox. They have their edits. I'd rather watch it on HBO. I'd rather watch The Sopranos on HBO than watch it on TBS. Or because you're getting, come on. Yeah, I don't watch that at all. Ugh. 4 old hags getting banged.
Oh, you didn't watch it on HBO either?
I never watched that show.
What a fantasy.
Walking around like they're all hot. Ugh. She might have been hot in Porky's, that one. How long ago are we talking? 30 years?
I love satellite radio. I gotta say, when we got fired, I was so discouraged with radio in general. I seriously considered just quitting and just and calling it a career. But then after I calmed down and was able to take a step back from all the craziness that happened to Anthony and I realized that we couldn't leave. We couldn't leave on that note. We couldn't leave on the top of our game like that. We want to leave on our terms. My brother ended up getting me satellite radio, and I know you're gonna ask which one. The fact is, I have both in the car, and that's the God's honest truth. I haven't listened to broadcast radio more than maybe a total of an hour in the last 2 years. Maybe a quick traffic report, maybe a quick local news from 10 Winds. Satellite radio is just amazing. The commercial-free channels. You get CNN in the car, Fox News Channel, MTV, sports channels, every type of music genre you can imagine. It's just amazing. And I think the problem satellite radio is having is that people don't really understand how much variety satellite radio has. They don't they keep saying, actually, I want to say that why would I pay for radio when I can get it for free? They don't understand that it's not even close the difference between, commercial radio and satellite radio. And then you had a show like Anthony and I, and it could be pretty damn cool,
That seems to be the only thing that satellite's lacking. They have the music angle covered, any music you want, and especially in comparison with broadcast radio these days, where the jocks their hands are tied. I mean, they're frightened. They can't do anything but read their liners and play the music. So if you compare that with satellite radio blows it away. You can now hear whatever you want, any genre of music. The only thing that's lacking is the personality angle. You want to be able to switch to a show like, the Opie and Anthony show, and hear that debauchery and fun and the element of surprise, the unexpected. You cannot get that these days. There's no show that I can listen to when I'm driving around that I look at my radio and go, what? What did I just hear? And laugh and go, oh my God, that's hysterical. Or, the last thing I was able to listen to like that was driving home, because I would listen to Ron and Fez. And that was fun. There's some kind of nothing anymore. There is nothing like that.
Radio has become so predictable. I mean, you know what you're going to get. You're going to hear the same exact music. You're going to hear way too many freaking commercials, and DJs acting like they're on the edge when they're just a bunch of phonies.
How do you think Howard Stern has handled or changed since all of this FCC stuff?
Leave it to Howard. Only him. He made out like a bandit with all this stuff. He might whine and cry like he always does about the FCC being on him and government trying to get his show thrown off and how he's going to be gone in a week. But the truth of the matter is, he's the only guy on the radio right now who can do this type of radio. Anyone else that tries it is getting fired. They're having to attend sensitivity meetings, which I'm sorry we're not on broadcast radio just so we can attend one of those things, because it would be a week of radio.
It would be unbelievable.
If Opie had to sit in a sensitivity meeting.
It's like those sexual harassment classes everyone had to go through. But it's like, don't be radio guys. We don't need sexual harassment.
Sensitivity meeting
classes.
But Howard could still do Howard's show. He's not going to get fired. He's making way too much money for Infinity and Viacom for them to even consider letting him go. And all the publicity has given it, the numbers better than anybody. You've seen him. The guy is through the roof all over the place.
He was handed a gift. I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's still the top morning man in New York, but his ratings were drastically lower than where they were in his prime. And all of a sudden, with all this publicity he was getting with this indecency crap, his numbers went through the roof. People that weren't listening to Howard for years started tuning him in again. So you got to think behind the scenes, he's like happier than a pig in shit about this.
Yeah, and he comes off as the guy that's fighting, for free speech. He voices his opinion that way. But the truth of the matter is, he's the one that can get away with more than anybody.
And I have to say, and he's such a hypocrite, and he's full of shit, because, when we were at Viacom, it was amazing that he went to the bosses and made us shut up and made sure we didn't even mention his name or refer to any part of his show. He had other jocks on our station, muzzled as well. But he's going to take the stand for freedom of speech and censorship. It's like, what a
it's kind of hard for us to read in the paper that he's taking a stand against censorship and freedom of speech. And me and Opie sit and look at each other and go, here's the son of a bitch that went to Mel Karmazin to have him call us up into his office and threaten to fire us if we mention his name. Even mention his name. I mean, and this is the new champion of free speech? Please.
A lot of people, me included, thought it would be really fun to see you guys go head-to-head with him. If you had your druthers when you come back to regular radio, would you want to be on the morning or afternoon again?
Mornings.
Yeah, definitely
mornings. No problem, mornings. We did afternoons. We proved to be quite successful, and now we want, we're always up for a new challenge. Without a doubt, we would do mornings. I think if we go to satellite radio, our show will be heard in mornings no matter what.
So,
Yeah.
did Fareed, when you talked to him, say anything to you about whether he thought the heat would be maybe too intense right now, or did you have a feeling about all that?
Well, as far as putting us on his stations, I should put us on tomorrow. He would put us on in mornings tomorrow, but like we said earlier, it would be really tough to do that without having a station be heard in New York. You know, that's the holdup, really.
Yeah. I mean, if we wanted to build from there and eventually get on in New York, that's one thing, but we kind of want to be on in New York.
Fareed always got us.
Yeah, he understands. He's one of the brave few that would be willing to take the heat, and because heat is what it is, and it really isn't going to materialize into this corporate busting riot that people assume when they fire personalities. There is nothing that would have happened as far as Viacom goes if they would have kept us on the air. There would have been heat at the beginning. They would have had to deal with people like Bill Donahue and the religious right and people that think that they know what's best for America and Americans to listen to. And then it would have gone away. They wouldn't have boycotted out in front of Blockbuster Video and Paramount Pictures and all the other Viacom properties. It just never materializes. These boycotts never materialize. It's a threat of a boycott that gets people to act and do these knee-jerk things like boot our asses out the door.
And even if they do, I can't remember the last boycott that ever even worked.
They don't.
Or did anything noticeable.
I don't even remember ones that materialized.
Right.
They always threaten, we are going to boycott you. And the companies go, oh my God, this is all we need. But they never materialize. So they knee-jerk, they boot us out, and they're left holding the bag for a lot of cash. I'll say that. Not only did they have to pay our contracts out, but then they had to hire new staff for WNW a few times over, pay off those contracts when it didn't work out after 3 months and fire them. They're not getting any ad revenues they were getting from our show.
And a lot of the stations that we're on across the country, their ratings drastically dropped.
Same thing. Their ratings went down. They weren't able to get the revenue money. They had to hire new staffs. I mean, it put a lot of shit into Viacom. They should have. I mean, it's easy for me to say what they should have done, but the smart move would have been to sit it out, take the heat, and let us continue doing the show we did. Oops.
How, I mean, does it hurt you guys, like, even physically? I mean, you you're obviously were making the good money, but you told me earlier, that you're pretty much running out of things to do. I mean, is it like really when something happens in the news, or like you said, a sensitivity class? I mean, how do you feel generally about not being able to be on the air?
Oh my God, it's unbelievably painful.
We call each other up. We do a show for each other.
It's kind of weird. It's like Anthony and I need each other. We literally will call every day and, hey, how's it going, Anthony? And then all of a sudden we start riffing about the news and stuff. Can you believe this? Can you believe that? We're laughing our butts off going, wow, this would have been great for, like you said, if it's 5 million people, but instead we're doing it for 2 people.
I'll be on the phone with have my computer's up. I got maybe Drudge Report or CNN or one of the websites, and I'm just trolling through stories and going, and then I'll read the story and we'll start going back and forth. It's a 2-person show over the telephone.
Yeah,
because it's hard to keep it inside. You got funny lines or just comments on a weird situation that's in the news that you gotta let out. You gotta vent it.
We never got to talk about Martha Stewart, Kobe Bryant, the DC snipers,
Mike Tyson going broke,
right? Michael Jackson stuff,
Ronald Reagan dying.
All the reality shows.
Yeah. Reality shows.
Yeah, like these are things that, would have been great on the air. Would have been a lot of fun to talk about. I think the listeners would have really enjoyed it, Real good fodder for the show, and it just kills us to not be able to talk about it on the air.
And we did everything we could to, get back doing the show, and like you said earlier, they just would not let us out of the contract. We knew we could make the money somewhere else, and they said no.
Too many stipulations.
You're going to sit there, and we're going to pay you to sit there to do absolutely nothing.
Could you imagine us actually going with Infinity's suggestion of going back to work? They wouldn't pay us, and not talking about things like Sex for Sam, not talking about things like the FCC, not talking about things like all the crap we went through with personalities at Infinity and management, and like all that stuff is what kind of people want to hear when we do finally get back. Okay, for 2 years, what happened? How did, what was it like when you did get fired that day? Who was around? And what, all that stuff would be off limits. It would be impossible to do a show. You talked with people?
I talked to people.
Has he talked to people?
I was just taking a very important phone call in the middle of this interview. What were you guys discussing when you stopped the tape?
Oh, well, go ahead, Anthony. I mean, because you repeat that thing there you said.
Yeah, it's if we signed with a satellite radio company, my phone's ringing now. God damn it! It's probably Bob.
It's bowling time.
Sorry, Jim. Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Does this mean anything, Opie? All these calls?
This call.
Of course they do.
I mean, anything really special?
Things are moving along.
Oh, I hate not picking that up. Look, call missed. Now it says. Now I got to sit here and go, what the hell? If we sign with any satellite company, we will all of a sudden be part of any indecency news story. Because it'll always be tagged with, and Opie and Anthony, St. Pat's debacle, fired from Infinity, went to satellite radio. And here's what they're doing now. Does this open up satellite radio to all the fired jobs? I mean, it's this cycle of news that we are put into.
In fact, you may well replace Howard Stern as an obligatory mention.
Right, every obligatory mention.
Story.
Exactly. You always have to have the obligatory mention.
We didn't even really discuss our feelings on indecency. It's so hypocritical what's going on with the FCC. I want to make it perfectly clear, I'm not for censorship on any level. I think our society is smart enough to handle, potty mouth talk on the radio and things like that. But with that said, I think it's really hypocritical what the FCC is attempting to do with radio as they ignore some blatantly other things like Sean Hannity playing the audio of a guy screaming and yelling as his head's being chopped off. How is that not
offensive.
Raising a red flag with the FCC if they're all for cleaning up the airwaves? I think that would, if I was thinking like an FCC guy, I would think that would be a lot more detrimental to the children if they heard that on the radio, right?
Bob's call.
Yeah, go. Anthony's got to take Bob's call, our agent. Hey, Bob, how you doing? And just to finish my thought, and then you got on TV, that Korean fella yelling and screaming, begging for his life on TV, on Fox and CNN and stuff, as they continue to behead all these people in Iraq. And no one is outraged about that, It's just unfathomable to me that the FCC will ignore that stuff, but will go after like potty talk.
That's and it all. Well, I mean, do you think without Janet Jackson we would have had any of this, or do you think it was maybe coming anyway?
A lot of people think. No, I'm not done yet.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
See, I've been talking so much, I haven't eaten my lunch. I know a lot of people think that Anthony and I may have started that ball rolling because what happened to us became an international story, so that piqued the interest of people. I think we were heading in that direction in general, but then the high-profile, examples like what happened to Anthony and I, and then certainly the Janet Jackson just put it over the top. I mean, all that outrage for something. I remember I had a Super Bowl party with, like anyone else, family, friends, kids rolling around on the floor. And there was most of us were actually watching the TV when the flash occurred. And most people questioned and went, what did I see? They weren't even sure it was on. And it was on the screen for, what did they say, less than a half a second. They weren't even sure what they saw. But God damn it, all the news channels made sure, made sure to show us what we missed, But it was okay for all the news channels to show the flashing over and over and over and over again. So obviously that brought it into the mainstream, and then the FCC went nuts after that.
too, because a lot of people who saw it didn't notice it, but they sure noticed it, and so did their kids.
Right.
When it got rerun about 52,000 times.
Yeah. Fox News Channel, all hypocritical. Look what your children are watching, and we're going to show you again because we're so outraged. Are they really outraged, or are they looking for ratings like anyone else out there?
So do you feel like almost like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but amputated or I mean, pained, or, you said that it was painful that, you're not on the air. I mean, how often, do you think about it a lot, or do you when you listen to these other shows that are on, and you're not, I mean, how do you feel about all that?
The only show I watch, because like I said, I don't even listen to radio unless it's satellite radio. And satellite radio doesn't have a lot of provocative talk shows on yet. As far as, Air America's kind of interesting at times. I actually watch Imus in the morning on MSNBC. I think he's got the best show out there right now. It's a lot of fun to watch. And I watch him and I get frustrated, like, oh my God, we're not able to do what we love to do, which is entertain people and do radio. So, yeah, it's been hard to live with at times, But we're finally at the end of it, and we're going to do it again, thank God.
I listened to Lynn Samuels, you remember, right?
Oh, yeah.
On Sirius.
Actually, I've heard her show on Sirius. It's kind of fun.
And I even though she always does it, it's still, every time she does it, it just, I do a double take because I'm not used to it, but she'll say, my old boss at WABC, that fucking asshole,
Right.
God, you could never, and then I'm thinking, if you ever get back to regular radio, then I hope you can undo that.
I would love to curse out a few former bosses on satellite radio. That's when we will take advantage of the actual curse words.
Yeah, because every so often, fucking asshole says it all.
There's no real response to that. So.
Well, this is good news. I mean, this sounds like Eatman is in hyperdrive here.
Yeah, Anthony's taking a call in the corner. It's funny because our agent has to repeat the same thing to both of us. He first calls me, then calls Anthony, and has to tell each of us the same news. And here comes Anthony back to the table. Good news there.
You heard the same stuff I heard.
Well, yeah, and what would that be?
Bob, our agent, has worked diligently.
Yes, I know.
To return us to our glorious post.
Thank you,
on the airwaves.
Yeah. Thanks for being so candid, Mr. Carey.
Yeah, and for all these dopes that think, getting Bush out of office is going to help this indecency issue.
Oh my
they
God.
are so mistaken. It's not even funny.
Bob's calling you now.
Right. I'm going to vote for Carey for other reasons, but to think that he's going to solve this indecency thing is
Thanks.
It's your show.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Take it easy, man. We got fans saying hi, agents calling. Hold on.
Warm rhubarb and strawberry tort. I might have to get that.
What does rhubarb taste like? I never ate it.
I didn't either until maybe a month ago. So I had no clue what it was. I still don't even know what it is, but it's almost an apple thing. Almost.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of what I got the impression when I ate it last time.
What was that?
Rhubarb. I was wondering what it tastes like. I never ate it.
Rhubarb tastes kind of like apple.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Anything different with that call? Why did you call?
I have some new info that you don't have yet. So your phone should be ringing.
Wait. I hung up. I hung up 2 seconds before he called you.
And I'm not telling you until after we leave this interview.
You suck.
So now you'll be wondering.
What were you gentlemen discussing during my absence?
Yeah, I was asking Anthony, how do you feel when you listen to these other shows that many you may well consider very lame, and you're not on the air? I mean, how do you feel when that happens?
I barely listen, to tell you the truth. I kind of hear what they're doing and what they've done and why they've been fired, some of them. And I don't know, I don't listen to regular radio anymore. Really don't. Not enough to know what anyone's really I've gotten clips that like Steve C has sent and stuff of some bits that are going on certain morning shows on certain failed radio stations, and they're just horrific. They are so bad. They're such bad, lame attempts at humor. Not even my own personal taste, like, oh, I don't find that funny. This is just bad radio, because everyone's so scared that they're just pulling everything back behind the wire. Don't reach out there. You might get your hand off, you know? No one wants to take even the slightest chance of saying anything, not only sexually offensive that might get an FCC violation, but don't badmouth the country, don't badmouth the president, don't badmouth, don't say anything racist, nothing, not even in the context of comedy. You can't even portray a character on the air that is a racist hit character, which is funny to listen to on the air. But he, in order to put that character over the top, has to use offensive words, racially insensitive words. It's part of the character that's being portrayed like it would be on a TV show or a movie. You can't even do that because the news will present it like this show used these words. Like in their regular discussions about things, you're using racist language. And then people that haven't heard the show all of a sudden read it and go, oh, well, they must be taken off the air. Taken completely out of context. I don't understand why radio is the only medium that no matter how you're presenting material, it's you that's doing it. On TV, it could be a character, it could be a character in a sitcom or a movie, but when you're on the radio portraying a character, portraying some funny situation where some southern hick might say this, or a black guy might say this, it's presented as if you were just walking down the street blurting this stuff out as yourself. And people take it that way and want you to pay.
10 minutes.
Okay,
So if you want to have to
can I get a cappuccino?
Cappuccino for you?
Yeah, please.
I will have the warmed rhubarb and strawberry tart.
Okay.
I will have the warm chocolate cake.
Okay.
And I will have nothing.
Okay.
You'll have nothing like it.
Or
I'm done finally. Thank you.
Well, you guys, I thought, were pretty crafty on the air about saying things in such a way that the humor was there, but if it were transcribed and published, right, you would escape. Because there were, it was said in such a way or said in such a context that it was hilarious and bad and naughty, but.
It's funny you mention that.
If it was written out, it wouldn't have that impact.
Over our years at NEW, the lawyers would give us transcripts of our show because they would be fighting the FCC on other issues, and so far we've never lost. By the way, they've never paid a fine from one of our broadcasts, but to read the transcripts, you're like, ooh, ouch, that doesn't sound good.
But that was taken in a different context.
Right.
We said that differently than it's written.
That was surreal too when you had Congress, when they did that whole thing with Mel Karmazin up there in front of Congress.
Oh my God, the congressional hearing on indecency.
And and listen to these congressmen and women mentioning our names and reading transcripts from our show.
I'll tell you.
That was quite surreal.
Yeah, when Congress is mentioning the Opie and Anthony show,
Never be a good thing.
it's never good. I always point out on the news when somebody's on the screen and I say, boy, you never want to be this guy. And recently it was the Clinton security chief that took the notes out of the secure location, because I saw him on the news and he's saying, I apologize for what I did. And I pointed, I go, oh, you never want to be this guy. That's the worst thing to be, is on national television having to apologize or say, I'm sorry I endangered that minor's welfare. There's certain things you never want to have to say. And one of those things is you never want Congress mentioning you. Maybe accepting the Congressional Medal of Honor, things like that perhaps, but in our situation it was one of those things where I'm watching on TV just going, oh, this is not good. It's not a good thing.
We were cringing all afternoon.
Yeah.
Let me see if I forgot anything.
Oh, sure.
Oh, John, going to his notes, Anthony.
You're in Brooklyn now, Anthony?
Yeah, still in beautiful Bay Ridge.
And over your Upper West Side.
Upper West Side. You can find me in the park inline skating every morning and afternoon as I bide my time until we go back on radio. I'm looking to
Neither of you guys has kids, right?
Not that I know of. Oh boy. I kill myself.
Just dates.
A man can dream.
Would you, if somebody made it a condition to come back, however you come back, that you had to apologize, what would you say to that?
Apologize? That's an interesting question, John.
That is a good one.
I know who I would apologize to, and it's the only people I would apologize to is our listeners, because I think we really took away a really good show. And I didn't realize how much we meant to our listeners until I started reading email after we got fired, and I realized, wow. And I don't want this to come across sounding cocky or anything, but people really, really, really appreciated our show and liked it, you know, and it was a part of what got them through the day, and we took that away from them, and that bothers me a lot.
I just wouldn't apologize for someone's perception of what we did. The perception of what we did is so far worse than the reality that I'm not going to apologize because someone believes we did this. You know, we did something that was so awful that you need to apologize for it. No, I wouldn't apologize for that. We've, you know, done our apologies in private. I would apologize to Ken Stevens at Infinity. You know, we used to be at Infinity, our old general manager.
He was a soldier for 18 years at Viacom, and
Great guy.
unbelievable guy, and supported us to the end, and was shown the door, and was treated like crap, to be honest with you.
After so many years at Infinity, you know, they tossed him out the door.
And you can't really blame Ken Stevens for what we did, because because the company was trying to save money. They had Ken running 3 stations. The guy was barely in New York because he had to be in Philly and Washington as well.
We were getting paid for exactly what we did. There's no secret there. Infinity enjoyed what we were doing for them. We were doing the type of radio we did, got the numbers that they could sell. That's what we were doing. When the heat got too hot because of the Sex for Sam incident, they kicked us all out the door. It wasn't like a build-up. It wasn't something like, oh, this is the last straw. They loved what we were doing. That was it, though. Boom. You do one thing, they got the heat, we all got kicked out. So, yeah, I would apologize to Ken because, you know, obviously it was the show we did that got him fired, and I feel bad about that. I can apologize to the likes of Bill Donahue and his mess, right-wing bullshit, thinks he knows what people want.
No. He didn't do his research either. The couple was never proven guilty of having sex at St. Pat's Cathedral.
Yeah, you could get into the technicals from now till the cows come home, but, you know, bottom line is the perception of what happened is far worse than the reality. The press wrote it up. It was far worse than the reality of it. And I would never apologize for that, no.
In what way would you say, how did the press get that wrong?
Oh man,
because
the first reports out were like there was sex going on within feet of worshipers, and
the way it was perceived,
pretty much in the pew right next to people praying,
is that on the Opie and Anthony show on that day, there was hot, steamy, pew-rocking, it was one I read in one of the papers, sex being broadcast, blow-by-blow description, live on the air of the Opie and Anthony show, of a couple having sex feet away from parishioners who were in the church. It didn't happen that way. There was no blow-by-blow description. We've been through it before. You know, what the spotter said that day when he was watching the couple was, we're here at St. Pat's, and he's doing the balloon knot, which was a code word for a certain sex act. But that's it. There was no, and the way people read this in the paper is me and Opie are going, he's banging the hell out of her up on the altar. Oh my God, it's just, that's the perception.
Well, now I'm confused.
And also, it was in the vestibule. I mean, obviously another technicality, but it wasn't in the actual church. It was in a dark corner.
That's what was read in the paper.
It was in a dark corner in the vestibule, and there was no one else around.
In plain view, with the graphic description over the air. No,
it sounds like we're defending ourselves. I understand that, but I mean, it's far different than what was reported. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, I'm confused because I mean, when you guys said balloon knot, that was a term for asshole, right?
It's supposed to be anal.
John,
Right.
you did just say asshole.
I did. Yeah, and so you described that as a sect act.
Yeah.
He wasn't in her. Well, was he?
That was what he was supposed to be doing. That's what the report was, using our code language, was that he was having anal sex with her for the 2-point conversion.
Because he didn't do that, right? Oh, he did do that? He was going to try to do that?
That's what he was supposedly
I didn't know
supposedly
that.
was doing.
Wow.
Yeah. Because you got extra points. What a fun game. Oh, jeez.
Ouch.
But, the perception of what was going on, and the way I just described it was, the perception. That's what was being broadcast back to us. This is fun and games. We're on the air to entertain, to do a show, to put on a radio show. Whether any of these sex acts were going on by any of the contestants, we are in a studio. We don't know where going on, what the spotters are saying that the contestants were doing. Whether it's happening or not, who the hell do we know? We're in the studio. But I'll tell you one thing, we're going to take their word for it, and we're going to describe it that way on the air. Whether it's happening or not, we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure.
Let it be known, we know it was a bad idea, obviously,
We wish we was awful bad idea.
We wish we had that day back. I knew going to the phone, and before we talked to Paul, that we were done. I just knew we were done. And that's something I had a thought about for the last 2 years, and man, do I wish we would have just not gone to that phone call, but we did, and we have to live with that. The one thing I do want to say too is that Anthony and I never try to capitalize on this thing. We were invited to go on. I mean, you name the network, we were invited on. Everything from the Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, Fox News Channel, MSNBC. It got nuts, and I can't speak for Anthony, but I'm embarrassed by that show, because I just thought there was a lot more to the Opie and Anthony show than the stupid Sex for Sam at St. Pat's Cathedral. So we never really wanted to capitalize on that and go on the air and be like, yeah, we're the dopey shock jocks. Look at us, And
I'd say I'm not proud of the show, but I'm not embarrassed by it. It was just another element of our show. And like I said before, it's the perception and the context of that show. We knew how it was presented. Maybe I'm naive in thinking other people could understand what the show is all about and the way it was presented, and thinking that some, middle America person is going to take it the same way I do. But we never meant that as, let's go into church and desecrate it, and this is going to be great. We're like Satan. That's never the way we were doing it. This was a fun, dopey game that was supposed to have a shock element to it. Sure. Look at the location. Oh my God. It's one of those things where you're driving, you look at the radio and go, what? They're doing what? Where? But not like, let's, set the city on fire, and let's, the way our show was over the years that we were at NEW was fun. It's about fun. And that's the same way I would take the Sex for Sam show. Our listeners knew what it was all about. It's a goof. It's a stupid idea, sure, but a lot of things it did were stupid ideas. It's just fun. A lot of things your friends do are stupid ideas. It's part of the fun of the show. That's why I'm not embarrassed by it, but I'm not proud of it either. It's just another element of the show.
But I just don't want to be known for that,
No, but unfortunately,
I know for the rest.
Yeah.
No, I know. I understand.
Unfortunately, that's the
I know for the rest of the years, whenever they mention our names,
Adjective.
yeah,
we thought we would be known for the mayor in Boston instead. Okay, we kind of.
But whenever they got out our names, it'll always be, they were the ones that blah, 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 you know, and that kind of bumps me out, I'm not going to lie to you, because we're a lot more than that, and our show was a lot more than that. That's all I'm trying to say, you know?
That's why I'm working on a cure for AIDS.
Yeah.
It's someday overshadowed. That was Cure for AIDS by Anthony, who also was a DJ fired from the...
I know, they would still have to put
still
that
be
in.
the tech. Anthony walks on Mars.
No worries, thanks. So, but we never advised on it, you know, and a lot of people didn't understand, why aren't you guys going on CNN and defending yourselves? First of all, we knew we couldn't really defend it.
And it's suicide to go on those shows.
Right.
Suicide. They have their agenda. They have the capability of editing the pre-recorded shows.
Well, we learned that the hard way with Bill O'Reilly. We did a sit down with Bill O'Reilly. He taped us for over an hour.
Yeah.
And we said some pretty neato things in that interview, but none of that stuff ever aired on Fox News Channel.
They had it all.
It was all.
Some of it did, yeah.
Wasn't there some big news event that happened right around that time that they postponed?
Yeah, but then it ended up airing, and anytime we mentioned sex, that's all he edited together. And we discussed a ton of things that day.
They have the way that all those shows have a way of weaving the content so the outcome is what they want.
And wait till you see what I do.
Yeah, right. No. You've been great with us though.
Over the years. And then they called themselves the No Spin Zone. That's what cracks me up.
No spin.
We have no agenda here. We don't spin our facts. We don't edit our interviews to make our point. We're the No Spin Zone. Bunch of crap.
Well, the irony is, you know, I was in the room next to you guys when that was happening.
Right.
But that particular, because sometimes I would listen to you guys, but most of the time I was listening to audition tapes and sometimes recording bits of you from the in-house library.
Right.
And but I knew something was up when I saw out of my little window Ken Stevens, Jeremy, the beer guy, Ken Stevens, Jeremy, the beer guy. That's when I emerged, and
It was over, Johnny.
and that was, you don't know, but you know, I was there in a ghost town after, because Ken was gone, you were gone, Jeremy was gone, and I was, and since the other execs are upstairs, I felt like, you know, even though I was only a consultant, I sort of felt like responsible for everybody on the programming floor who was going around not being told anything. So I just made it, you know, tried to find out as much as I could, and tried to tell people. And
Weird time, man.
And I did my work without reporting to anyone, because there was no one left.
That was a whole,
It was
weird time for us, because we almost, at least I did, I was totally in denial and expected somehow, some way, that we would be working soon again, because you could not fathom 2 years. You couldn't, if you thought it freaked you out. So you just said, there's no way we're going to be out of work 2 years.
I don't think anybody thought that.
Infinity did. They sure did. Man. And, you know, as time went on, we were counting an open call and go, well, there's 3 months gone. You know, you're like, 3 months.
Did you guys like
6 months and
despair or feel despondent at any point along that road?
awful? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
John, look at us. We both lost like 30 pounds each. Figure it out. Do the math.
It was,
I stopped eating, and then, you know, then I stopped feeling sorry for myself and got my act back together and started going to the gym and exercising, and then turned it into a positive. I just started reading a ton of books and going to the gym and traveling, and the theme was really for me to just re-educate myself and be, you know, better prepared when we do get back in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So we could be a little more diverse with our show as well.
Just finding some kind of creative outlet, things to, you know, entertain yourself, have some fun.
Well, we were prisoners in our own homes for a while. We had the paparazzi. It's so hard to say that word, but they were living outside our you know, abodes, trying to get that exclusive photograph of the scourge of society.
They never did they? Because I remember seeing a picture of Anthony in conjunction with the divorce.
No, John, like we said about 10 minutes ago, we never wanted to capitalize on this. I didn't want I was not going to give them a picture of, you know,
They had pictures though
of me down and out. Yeah,
in file. So the day we got fired was kind of funny because it was another situation of you don't want to be that guy when I came out of my apartment.
Well, let them use the file photos. I did not want a picture of me down and out. No way were they going to get it. They camped outside my house for 2 weeks straight. Lawn chairs, big telephoto lenses. I watched them one day. Watch my, you know, the house that I live in Huntington as well, and they never got the picture. And one day I was bored watching them. That this is a true story. I actually tied sheets from the second story of my house,
like a cartoon,
like you see on TV, so I could escape my house. Then I jumped over the neighbor's fence. I had my brother drive my car
If you need to leave,
to a parking lot.
Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it.
And I jumped in my car and left for the day. And they sat there just still assuming that I was still inside. And then one time they chased me, you know, down one of the local roads in Huntington, going about 50, 60 miles an hour on Woodbury Road. And you know Woodbury Road, it's all curvy and stuff. Chasing me, trying to get a stupid photograph. And they never got it.
It looks like cherries. Or it looks like cherry pie in there.
Yeah. I'm so glad you found that so interesting, John, that you had a comment about Anthony's dessert.
My rhubarb.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's great. What is that there? Strawberry?
I'm sharing my soul, and he's like, oh, look at the rhubarb. It looks just like cherries.
And it tastes good, too.
Yum.
Well, food always trumps everything in my mind.
It's all good. No, but we're ready to go again. Thank you very much. We can't wait.
I assume Infinity stopped paying you guys in June?
June 1st.
June 1st, me and Opie went down and filed for unemployment.
Yeah.
For unemployment benefits.
Which, you know, Anthony and I wanted to do that, and our agent begged us, just don't embarrass me that way, guys.
Please don't do it.
Please don't do it.
We mentioned it as a passing joke, and him being involved with us over so many years, and he knew to say, guys, please don't. That would be really funny, though.
Yeah, so the contract ended June 1st, and then, you know, negotiations really started to heat up, obviously, and that's where we're at today. So, and we're just really waiting to make sure we get the right deal for us. That's really the only holdup. Oh, plus, you know what? We didn't even mention this, but it's taking some time. Oh, we did mention the no compete till October 1st, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So no one's really in a hurry, knowing that we can't broadcast anyway in New York.
The thing is, after we do sign something with somebody, even before October, we could, you know, get the promotion machine rolling and start pumping whoever we're going to be working for, you know? Doing interviews, doing some of the interviews that people wanted us to do before, and at least we'll have something to promote, you know?
Opie, when the story runs Monday, I'm sure Hannity will call and say, hey, remember what I wanted? You know, I was going to have, I could have him on the show, you know?
Oh, Hannity did want on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We met him 9/11.
Yeah, we broadcast from the same studios.
Out in Garden City, because we couldn't get in at the time, and Hannity couldn't get in at the time, and
you can't knock the guy. He's done amazing over the past few years.
I don't agree with a lot of his politics, but you know, to John Doe, he's a good radio host, and he's a really, really good guy. He was really, really nice to us. So.
But I guess the answer is you guys are just not ready to do TV right now, right?
It's got to be the right opportunity. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of guys out there that in radio, I think, would have loved to be in Anthony and I's position, so they could show their fat faces all over TV and take it all in. But
Run for sheriff?
I don't know. And we say this a million times, and people just don't. I don't know. They have a hard time believing it. But we're kind of regular guys that, you know, do well and do a funny radio show, and we'd like to make people laugh and entertain them. But as far as all that Hollywood glitz and going on TV just to go on TV and stuff, it never really appealed to us, you know. just didn't.
Well, as you said, you probably save the in-depth or the TV stuff for when there's the announcement, right?
Well, if we have an announcement and we have something to promote, we're not stupid. That would be a great opportunity to go on and
it's all about the radio in the end.
right, let everyone know what we're doing.
Well, I'll tell Sean he'll be among the first. Is that safe to say?
Sean,
Because he said he's gonna, he likes you guys, and he's gonna be up front with you and let you speak. And I would think he means that.
You know who wanted us really bad? And we actually sat in a hotel for 2 hours? Was Bob Costas, HBO. On the record with Bob Costas.
Yeah, that would be a smart move for us.
And we actually sat down and thought about it and talked to the producer for 2 hours to get a feel for what they were going for, and realized that it was just going to be another one of these. We would just be railroaded.
I kind of remember his interview with Vince McMahon.
Right.
And the way he talked about wrestling and what was going on at the time that's when wrestling was huge. And he had nothing but bad things to say and how it was awful for the children and violence and sex and we're going to sit down with him. At least Vince could have just gotten up and punched him in the face. What are we going to do? Just sit there and take his crap?
I think we can take Bob Costas and make it sound like he's some behemoth of a guy. So
no,
then
I'm talking about getting sued.
So then
Vince has the money.
So we said no, and they got Bubba the Love Sponge instead. But whatever.
Sure, what did he just announce? Some kind of funky thing. He announced
running for sheriff.
Oh, that's right.
But you got to give him that. Kind of a great way to put your name into the news.
You ever hear him?
No, never actually heard any tapes of him.
I'm sorry, I have a little technical. Do you guys start here? Give me 2 minutes, okay?
The what?
I have a problem with the computer, so give me 2 minutes, okay? Are you in a rush to...
No. You want would another card help? Is it a problem with the card?
No, it's a part that... It's because we're old-fashioned and we're too cheap to upgrade our computer system. That's why.
Whatever. No, we're not in a hurry.
Okay.
I assume Opie is calling Ethan.
Where do you go to make a phone call?
He took the phone. Or maybe from the bathroom just took the phone to have it.
No.
Tape's rolling, so I won't say anything.
That's right. Well, lucky for me, I can do a Rosemary Woods if I don't like anything I said.
That's it. Clip. A few seconds of blank tape. Now things are moving along. We've taken meetings in the past thinking that day we were going to be signing something. Swear, we would this is it, finally. And then some conversations get brought up about items in a contract, this, that, and then it just, more phone calls have to go back and forth before you know it, it's Friday. You gotta wait the weekend. Monday rolls around, same thing happens. You go another week, and before you know it, a month's gone by. You're like, weren't we gonna sign something last month? It just takes forever.
What did I miss? I had to take a leak.
And
Nothing.
Anything else you guys want to say?
I'm done.
What should I have asked you that I did?
I don't know. I think you did a fine, thorough job.
We're looking forward to do it again. Obviously, but that's we're chomping at the bit to get going again.
It's time.
There are so many hot chicks walking by this window. That's what I want to say. Holy shit. Soho rocks.
Thank you very much.
Hey, all right. You guys want to give the Cub Room a plug on your website?
The Cub Room, the food was excellent.
Oh, yeah, very
And
good.
the window view is even better.
Good rhubarb. The hell is rhubarb? Very good.
Ooh, John's a big tipper, Anthony. Look at that.
All right. Tip yet.
Oh.
See, 125.
So you're pressuring him.
That's like.
Now you're under pressure.
Well, this guy was. I should give him $25, right?
That's
I'm not saying anything.
How about 20% guy?
Oh wait, 20% of 100 is 20. So,
Oh, John.
there you
Let
go.
me show you the 20% trick. It's 124.
Yeah.
Just take the 12,
Yeah.
double that,
24.
24.
25.
No, because
25.
it's
Oh, they even have the little thing here.
Am I right?
A little computation.
Technically, it'd be just under
24.98.
Yeah, it'd be just under 25.
But he's so good, I'm gonna give him 30.
wow. There you go.
Wow, look at you, bro.
I can go to college.
You could go to college.
Or like the guy in Trading Places. Thanks. I'll go to the movies by myself.
By myself.
Oh, John just said that for the tape. Look, you put in $15.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Okay.
Wunderbar. Time to go skating.
You're going skating?
Mm-hmm.
Ice or roller?
Inline skating.
Oh, with the little wheels?
Little wheels.
I mean, the little wheels in the skates thing? The little wheels in a row? That deal?
Yeah.
Did you just wake up from a deep freeze or something?
Yeah.
Rollerblading. Right?
Thank you very much.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, Opie's gonna get the skate key with the 4 metal wheels
Right.
on each foot.
Why not?
Put him over his sneakers.
I can show you my swollen, bruised hand because Rich Voss hit me with a golf ball 2 days ago. Actually, the swelling went down. Nice, huh? Ow. Right here. Boink.
That'll hurt.
How did that happen?
I was on the green and stupid Voss was about 100 yards out, obsessing about finding his golf ball. So I was playing the hole out, and now I'm standing on the green waiting for him, and he hits a pitching wedge. He just skies it. I lose it. So I'm looking at him, seeing if he's going to yell 4. I'm looking at him, and he has this retarded look on his face, like, he doesn't know where the ball is. I'm like, oh, great.
Always got that look.
All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, great. He has no idea either. So I cover my head like this, put my hands out like this. Ball comes straight down on my wrist, or just above the wrist.
Did it screw up his shot?
Well, it's...
Would it have been a better shot if...
Well, I fell like I got shot. It's the worst feeling ever. And then he's walking up to the green, and he's like, he goes, I know what kind of temper you have, so I kept saying to myself, don't laugh. That's all he cared about. But then he had to say that I screwed up his placement on the green because the ball went off of the putting surface because it ricocheted off my hand. What an awful little man.